I grew up in England, and after going to public school, I decided that I wanted to get into business. So, as Catherine just said, I went to University of Sheffield and studied accounting and financial management. After that, decided to go back down to London, where I trained as a chartered accountant with KPMG. And I worked there for 5 years, doing audit and forensic accounting with a wide variety of public, private, local, and multinational firms. And following, I guess, a dream at the time, I took the opportunity to go to San Francisco, where I landed the job at Gensler. And since I've been at Gensler, I joined as assistant controller, then became controller. I took 2 years out to stay at home with my son, and then returned as director of finance and accounting, and more recently as CFO. And so, in addition to my role as CFO at Gensler, I'm responsible for managing a team of 35 people within the corporate finance group. And amongst the responsibilities, it's payroll, retirement plans, treasury, taxation, accounts receivable, making sure that our vendors and employees are paid on time. And in addition, I work with our regional operating officers. We have 9 of them across the firm. And they're also responsible for some of our local finance processes. So they're responsible for invoicing clients and also for making sure that we get the cash receipts in from our clients. And so what I found, when I look back at my career and the last 13 or so years, and I think, well, some of the obstacles and some of the challenges that I've experienced, what could I all kind of tie them or thread them together with? And I think that that would be, what's the right thing to do? So 11 years ago, when I joined Gensler, the company was going through a system implementation to upgrade its legacy or its existing accounting software to an updated version that was going to be able to deal with multiple currencies. And soon after we started the project, we'd already missed one go live date, and there were a lot of issues with the project. My specific responsibility was for functional testing. So whereas some people on the team were responsible for making sure that vendors and employees could get paid in isolation, and others would be looking to make sure that clients could get paid, my responsibility was to make sure that working with each of the individuals, looking at their individual items, we could make sure that in the typical month that a business operates, all of the different transaction types which a business would normally incur could get processed within the month. We could close the period and then issue the month-end income statement and balance sheet. Well, needless to say, we ran into challenges. The board member who had oversight to the project had already communicated a second go-live date to the firm. So he wanted to make sure that we hit the deadline. But it became very apparent that we were having challenges, the biggest of which was that we could not issue an invoice to be able to send out to a client, which would have been disastrous had we have gone live, because if you can't issue an invoice to a client, then you're not going to be able to get money in to get paid. So I remember the fun job I had 11 years ago on one of the weekly project update calls. When the board member at the end of the call said, has anyone else got something else to say? I was like, well, we can't process invoices. The functional testing isn't working. We're not going to be able to go live and meet the deadline. And I still remember the silence that met me at the end of the phone line and thinking, oh God, I'm going to end up losing my job. What's this going to mean? I remember, going with my tail between the legs back to the team. But the important thing that I learned from that is, don't be afraid to speak up when the time is right and do the right thing, do the right thing at the right time, because otherwise the company would have ended up losing expenses daily if they'd have continued to continue with the project. And then in 2006, I led an initiative across the firm to reduce our invoicing cycle, so reduce the amount of time that it takes for invoices to be sent to clients. And there were a number of our regional operating officers, project managers, accounting managers, all said, this is going to be too difficult, you're not going to be able to do it. But at the same time, the firm, the business had a lot to gain to the extent that we were able to. And they were concerned that the change management across the firm, so to get every office, reducing the time and to change our processes would be too much. But by collaborating with the marketing manager, we ended up branding the initiative in a way that would be culturally sensitive within Gensler. We called it redesigning billing. We're a design firm, so it worked. And through communicating with a number of different stakeholder groups within the organisation and working very closely with the finance team, we actually ended up reducing our invoicing cycle by 6 business days, which may not sound like a lot, but it equated to the equivalent of receiving $9 million in earlier that we could then invest and put into the business. And so from that, what can I say in terms of the right thing to do? Be persistent and go with your gut. If you know something's the right thing to do, then persevere with it. And sometimes in business, an obstacle or a curveball comes from nowhere that, even with the best intentions, you never anticipated would happen. And so each year in June, Bonus Day is a big celebration for the firm. It's the day at which all of our offices across the firm, it's a big celebration day. All of our offices across the firm are celebrating. And on this particular occasion, the express delivery firm responsible for delivering the bonus checks mislaid the checks to our Chicago office. So we found out the morning that the bonus checks were supposed to be delivered, and the Chicago office was all ready to do their celebration. So quickly had to pick up the phone to the office leaders and say, you know, we're not going to be able to give you bonus checks today, same as everybody else, but here's our proposed solution. And so quickly, having a quick conversation with our treasury manager and payroll manager, we established that the fastest way for the Chicago staff to get their bonuses was to process manually bank wire transfers. So rather than my team going out to lunch and enjoying our bonus day celebrations, we actually held back, and there was a team of 15 of us, wider than just the people who were responsible for treasury. So we all kind of mucked in together to make sure that the wire transfers could be entered, approved, and released before the bank's deadline, which was something like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And rather than me just sitting on the sidelines, I actually joined them and sat down with them processing wires so we could get it all done. And then we could all go out and enjoy our lunch together, which we ended up doing. It was just a few hours later than might otherwise have been the case. And in terms of sort of where Gensler is and where it's come from, so 10 years ago, Gensler had 24 offices, 1,500 staff, working in 24 countries. And today, we have 44 offices, 3,900 staff, working in 70 countries. And over the course of the last 3 years, we have opened up 12 new global entities. So the complexities that Gensler is dealing with today are significant and dramatically different to what they were 10 years ago. And in fact, by the time we get to 2030, we're expecting to potentially have 90 offices with 7,500 employees. So some of the issues that we're dealing with today, within each of the countries we go into, there are compliance issues. So what are the local accounting requirements? What are the tax filing requirements? What are the rules regarding employees and how you pay people, and what type of benefits are typical within that country? Foreign currency and dealing with different exchange rates, and how to get money out of countries like China. We have global clients, and how do we contract effectively across multiple geographies? Local language to consider, local cultures. How do we put together local marketing materials that are culturally sensitive in that marketplace? These are all challenges that we address today and we will continue to address. And they're just the external ones. On the internal side, we want to make sure that as Gensler continues to grow, we want to make sure that it's scalable. So how do we put in place an infrastructure with all this additional compliance that we need to do in a way that is not overly bureaucratic and is simple and agile and can adjust to the business as it continues to grow. And in addition to the infrastructure, it's our culture. Our culture is sort of the lifeblood of Gensler, and it's very important to us. So we want to make sure that we can put in place the changes that are necessary to manage the risks of the business, but do so in a way that will work within our culture and be accepted within our culture so that we don't end up losing our culture. And so what I've found the right thing to do in those instances is you've got to address the issues head on. Yes, they're very complex, some of them, and there are a number of issues to address, and all of the members of my team are sort of addressing different aspects of them. But the risk of not addressing the issues is too great. So just remember, it's important to continue to grow and to learn. And so if I had to, from the different examples that I've given, if I had to say, what's the right thing to do in terms of the experiences that I've had, I'd say it comes down to a few simple things. Don't be afraid to speak up when the time is right. Be persistent. Trust in your gut. Work alongside the team, and remember to grow and learn. And doing the right thing isn't always the easiest thing to do. It's not necessarily the most simple thing to do. Sometimes it takes a lot longer and it doesn't come with instant gratification. But what I found that over the longer term, it ends up generating a lot of personal reward, however you may end up defining that. So I encourage all of you to push outside your comfort zone and to navigate the course ahead. Thank you.